And so I'll actually remember to introduce Ashley, and she's doing the next two sections, even though they're each only 5 minutes. And she is sorry, she's an extension associate, but she actually is also the adult program leader for Cornell Garden-Based Learning. And you've been hearing us talk about Cornell Garden-Based Learning many times yesterday, and you will probably hear it some more times today too. So she's going to give us information on that resource and then also information on permaculture.
Great. Well, thank you all for having me. This is just a fantastic conference, and it's been really good because we do a lot of the same kind of work with our Seed to Supper program, but often haven't been doing as much of this kind of big public facing beginning gardening content. So we have a lot of that on our website though. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Just a little bit about who we are. Again, Cornell Garden-Based Learning is kind of the umbrella organization that works with Master Gardener volunteers all the way to 4-H programs. And I've just put a few of the highlights of what we do. Again, we work on newsletters, webinars, and websites, as well as online workshops, events, and courses, and in person when we're allowed to do them again. And then we also evaluate the impacts of these programs for the Master Gardener program and the 4-H programs. So these are just a few of the curriculum I'll be kind of touching on today, but that's a big part of our job, is not only supporting these coordinators and educators at the county level, but also developing new curriculum resources for them and professional development. So we, again, just getting back to the Master Gardener volunteer program, since that's what I'm most involved with, we really focus on food security and environmental stewardship. So again, I'll be kind of highlighting some of the food-focused resources that we have and where to find them, because to me, in my mind, the real aim of this is that Master Gardener volunteers and the public can access this information really easily and know how to get to it. And that's half of the battle, is just knowing where to find the information. So I'm curious in the chat, I'd love to hear from everybody. What are your go-to resources for gardening questions online? And I really hope sometimes you can visit our website as well, but I'd love just to hear where you go and what you find really useful. So just put that in the chat, and as I get going, think about, again, maybe where we might be able to help you, or if there's other resources you'd like to see. So I just wanted to focus on, again, the Just Plant It New York campaign, which was something we did at the beginning of the pandemic. It was a way that we were trying to put on our main page, gardening.kales.cornell.edu, all of those beginning gardening resources that are actually a part of both our Seed to Supper program, as well as our Master Gardener volunteer course. So we kind of tried to just pare down what are the most important pieces to the public. And so we have a bunch of beginning gardening resources and a fact sheet on seed starting, and a really great curriculum, which is fantastic if you have kids, but also can be used for adults, for seed to salad curriculum, basically like a beginning early spring curriculum around gardening. And then a site assessment, resource and FAQs. And then we also have added Steve Reiner's pandemic gardening blog as well. So this is just a great way to, again, get a one-stop shop for kind of basic gardening, beginning gardening needs. But if you want to dive deeper, the online resources that we have are typically in our garden guidance section of our website. And these are the categories. I'm not going to go through them all, but I just wanted to kind of let you know that troubleshooting is really where those IPM focused resources are all compiled. So again, we're trying to put all of the resources that we recommend for Master Gardeners into similar topic areas on our website. So just again, going back to that troubleshooting section, these are some of the IPM focused resources that we share with our Master Gardeners that are also on our website. So again, we kind of highlighted, and I'm sure you've heard a little bit about some of these resources from other presenters, but plant disease diagnostic fact sheets are fantastic. The vegetable MD fact sheets and kind of interface is really wonderful. We have some turf grass specific focused resources, as well as tick and mosquito fact sheets, and a lot of the what's bugging you resources that you've heard a little bit about today. So these are just a couple of them. And again, I think you all are going to have access to these as well, but the Cornell Pest Management Guidelines series. And we've even broken down some really key resources that you can check out within those. So just something to know where to find them. If you have questions about IPM, not just that they point right to the IPM resources that you all have been hearing about during the conference, but it's just a great thing to know about, that there's another place you can find them. So this is a brand new project I wanted to talk about. Again, thinking about how we're working with the public. We've been working with the Sustainable Landscapes Program Work Team on developing a couple of core websites that can be cloned across the state through the local CCE offices. And why is this important? It's really key because we have found that, again, the resources that counties sometimes were using were not lining up with the Cornell resources. We really wanted them to align with what we're asking master gardeners to know about. So again, when they're able to point the public to new resources from Cornell, they're going to go to their local website as well. So I'll just highlight a couple of them that again are related to IPM that you all should know about that are coming. And for educators and those that work in the county offices, we'll be requesting folks to adopt these clonable websites so that again, the resources are the same around the state. So the first one is pollinators. And this one, again, a lot of the folks on this call have been involved with this. It's got some great resources about kind of habitat certifications, as well as just some basic facts about pollinators and some of the key resources from campus. The second clonable site that we're working on, again, these are all going to be at Tompkins, but then eventually across the state, is all about sustainable lawns. And this one, again, has some really good, some of the things we've talked about in this conference, weed identification website, and some of the key kind of frequently asked questions around lawns to make it easier for the public to find their answers. And again, linked to Cornell resources. TikTok, again, we've talked a little bit about this, but the Don't Get Tick New York campaign is really fantastic. So we wanted to have Joellen really led this effort to compile the resources around ticks specifically. And so this is kind of brand new, just launched very recently. And then the Cornell vegetable gardening resources. I really worked on this page that's again going to be cloned across the counties eventually. This has those same beginning gardening resources that I mentioned at the beginning of the talk. But just the idea is to put it all in one place, have it have a local focus so that people can find these things and don't have to go to Cornell's website to find them. So those are just a few of those kind of county-based resources online that will help master gardeners and the public find the same resources they'll find on our website. But for those that are educators or master gardeners, I wanted just to highlight a few additional resources that are really helpful. For master gardener volunteer coordinators, we have a horticulture update newsletter where I put resources that for new and upcoming events on campus, as well as kind of highlighting resources that we have on various topics. And then we have the Extension Master Gardener Volunteer Program page, which is fairly new. And that's where we have monthly sustainable landscape lunch and learns, webinars and other webinars that we work in partnership with other community and campus-based organizations. So they're all posted there along with these horticulture update newsletters. So it's a great website just to kind of be a one-stop shop for what we have to offer around professional development. And finally, last but not least, I wanted just to talk about a little bit about our online courses. So these aren't open to the public. These are open to master gardener volunteers, but it's important for people to know that these two resources are out there. And really the same things I've been talking about that are available through the counties and through our website are also, part of our core curriculum for master gardeners. So again, we're trying to align all the pieces of professional development so that the resources are available to the public. So I just highlighted one here, the food gardening module of our Cornell Garden-Based Learning Library, which is our master gardener volunteer training. And so we have a great number of resources within that section specifically for master gardeners. And then for advanced master gardeners, those that have been in the program a while, we have new online continuing education topics. So those are kind of getting into ecological gardening techniques that are really key for kind of keeping up with the resources we have. So that was a really quick overview, and I'm just going to look at the chat.
I'm going to ask you one question, and then I'm going to ask everybody out there one question. The one question you just got is, what is the Master Gardening Certificate? The other thing that while you're answering that question is to have everybody that's on the presentation today to either raise your hand physically or use the little under reactions, the little hand raising. How many of you are Master Gardener volunteers?
Oh yeah, I thought we had a lot of you guys. It was nice to see you all. And as I'm pretty new, I feel like I'm still pretty new to the position. I'm still getting to know folks from all over the state. So it's just lovely to be able to talk to you all at once today. Yeah, so the Master Gardener Volunteer Program is a volunteer program statewide for those that are new to it. It's also national. So essentially, if you want to become a Master Gardener volunteer, you'd reach out to your local county CCE office, and we'd work through those folks to get you trained in our Master Gardener volunteer core curriculum and become a volunteer with that county. So just so folks understand that those courses that I talked about are really aimed at those volunteers. So I hope that's a good overview of what we have to offer. Yes, Master Gardeners do rock.
They do rock.
We love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And I know that I have limited time, so I got to get to my next presentation. Yep. I'm going to go right into it because this is really an area I feel very passionately about. So I'm excited to be able to present it today. Hold on one second. I'm just going to pull up my presenter view. All right. I'm going to stop sharing and I'll reshare again here. Okay. Hopefully this will work. And
still,
y'all see?
There you go. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
fantastic.
It's presenter view, so we see the next slide too, but it's okay.
Oh, okay.
You can also
I didn't know it did that. Let me see if I can fix that.
You could go up to display settings there and switch monitors. But.
I knew that there was something like that. I got to do it first, and then sorry about this, guys. Thanks for your patience.
We will all be experts about the time they change everything.
Okay. This is such an interest. I've always been very interested in how this changes from one presentation to another. But you know what I'm just going to do? I'll just go ahead and share without the presenter view, if that's all right. Yep. I can do that. Okay. 1 second, please. All right. Let's see if this works. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. Do you still see it?
Yep, and that'll work.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to chat a little bit about our permaculture design resources, because this is an area that we also have continuing education on. This is essentially, I'll talk a little bit about our adult education programs that are outside of the Master Gardener program and open to the public. So first, I just wanted to talk about a land acknowledgement statement. This is important for a lot of reasons, but specifically in the context of permaculture. So I'll just share this with you if you haven't heard it before. Cornell University is located on the traditional homelands of the Gaya-Kahuna. The Gaya-Kahuna are members of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, an alliance of 6 sovereign nations with a historic and contemporary presence on this land. So the Confederacy precedes the establishment of Cornell University, New York State, and the United States of America. We acknowledge the painful history of the Gaya-Kahuna dispossession and honor the ongoing connection of Gaya-Kahuna people, past and present, to these lands and waters. And this is really key, not just for this presentation today, but specifically in the context of permaculture, because a lot of permaculture and agroforestry is really based in this traditional ecological knowledge of Indigenous people. So I wanted to honor that. So one quick reflection, again, with my limited time, if folks can just put in the chat what you're interested about permaculture, I'll do my best in 5 minutes to share a little bit more about that. First and foremost, really what permaculture is about is learning how to garden like a forest. So we teach in our course a lot about those components and really focus a lot on site analysis, working with the site conditions and working with nature instead of fighting against it. So as you can see here, a foundation of that is understanding those layers of forest and integrating those into a more of an edible forest design. So we have an overstory tree layer, an understory tree layer, shrub layer, herbaceous layer, root layer, and ground cover and vine layer. And that's really key because permaculture is really, and forest gardening in general is really about using the elements of the vertical space as well as the natural interactions between plants to the benefit of the gardener. So just to give you a little background again, agroforestry and permaculture are very linked, but I wanted just to kind of share a little distinction if you've heard about each. Agroforestry really talks about traditional ecological knowledge, principles, and scientific practices in order to create those sustainable and resilient food systems, where permaculture is really more of a design practice that focuses in on mimicking natural relationships found in the forest environment. And I just shared this, the 3 ethics of permaculture, just to kind of give you a sense that really permaculture was leading the way in many ways around the sustainability movement. If you've ever heard of people, profit, and planet being like the 3 legs of the stool, right, of sustainability, in many ways, permaculture uses earth care, fair share, and people care to, again, use those same kinds of concepts to design more ecological gardening spaces and agricultural spaces. So I won't go into great depth, but I did just want to, again, touch on that traditional ecological knowledge piece because it's so critical on the roots of permaculture. Really, traditional ecological knowledge being that cumulative knowledge about the relationship between plants and animals and living systems. And here at Cornell, one good example of that, and one you've probably heard of, is the Three Sisters Gardens. We have some resources through gardening, through Cornell Garden-Based Learning, but also there's some great videos by Professor Jane Mount Pleasant all about the science behind the Three Sisters Garden, which is kind of like this really wonderful example of a polyculture design utilizing those principles of permaculture design as well, as really thinking about the vertical space and the way plants interact with one another between corns, beans, and squash. So this is just one example I wanted to share to kind of get you inspired about what permaculture is all about. These are just, again, pointing back to IPM, a few of the principles around permaculture. Again, permaculture is a design framework and really is focused more on goals that meet the needs of your unique land and microclimates, and really thinking about all of those really intricate details of your site. But a few of them that might be really familiar to IPM folks include the use and value diversity, integrate, again, integrated pest management, integrate those different benefits of plants and animals, creatively use and respond to change, and observe and interact. So again, a lot of the principles I think are very much in line with where permaculture is trying to go. I'm just going to mention this really briefly, that another topic you might have heard of is the food forest. And this is essentially a public garden that uses permaculture principles. And I've talked a little bit about it before, but the idea is, again, around food security, around building sustainable, edible, perennial gardens that teach about these concepts around ecological gardening. So just to give you, these are just a few of the concepts we cover in the course. All right, so what are some examples that might be familiar, again, thinking about the IPM framework and within this permaculture perspective around design? Well, again, I think here's just a couple of examples of ways that you might use that same approach. One is actually designing non-living elements that repel pests, right? So anything that kind of like blocking a hole in the wall to prevent cockroaches, for instance, is just an example. Designing elements which attract predators, again, non-living elements. So bat boxes, I'm thinking bee boxes, those kinds of things that are, again, trying to work with nature's kind of helping species. And then cultivation of specific plants as companion plants. We've talked a little bit about that, but definitely permaculture uses those same principles. And one example of that is, for instance, working with marigolds, for instance, with potatoes. And then cultivation of plants which attract beneficial insects. So another example is planting caraway or coriander to attract lacewings who eat aphids. And then finally, introduction of animals. We haven't talked a lot about that, but this is an important one in permaculture, integrating animals into the pest management framework. And so one example that's pretty famous, I guess, within permaculture circles is introducing ducks to eat snails, for instance. So these are just a few little taste of how permaculture might use some of the similar principles. And here's just another, I think, really important concept, and I know I'm running out of time. The cherry tree polyculture. This is just an example of, again, how you might use a polyculture planting to use the benefits of plants to again, attract beneficials, repel pests, and also improve the soil in order just to build a more healthy ecosystem that supports a really healthy plant system. So this is just a great example, and I won't go into depth, but this is the kind of thing that we produce in our permaculture courses. Really designs for polycultures that benefit the specific needs of your site.
Great.
All right.
I
Am I
guess-
running out of time?
Well, if you could just,
Okay.
if you're
Oh, sure.
ready, when you're ready
I'll
to
wrap it
stop
up.
sharing,
Okay.
Brian can share and you could still, you
Okay.
do some questions. In
Sure,
between.
sure. If there's anybody who has questions, I just wanted to share that we have a food forest trial garden program for the Master Gardener program that is diving in depth into this topic. And we also have our permaculture design series that you're welcome to sign up for on our website. But I'll stop sharing there. That's really it. If anybody has
Great.
questions. Thank you so much.